Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Starting off with a picture of a free Gemara campaign. Takes up most of the guy's window. I wish I had more of the storefront. I don't know what it is, the name of the store. Is that Coney? It's like in Brooklyn, I think. He definitely has an A rating, the store. Maybe we'll get a better picture. Now, I got to show you this video here. This is a Belzer Chassid. You got it? You got some volume?
Actually, hi Reb Eli, you just want to wish a mazel tov, and my name is Yankel Cohen from Billyack and Belzer Chassid. Just want, what is the quiz that you want to ask? There's a quiz. What's the quiz?
What's Reb Eli's best birthday present?
Best birthday present. That's what I wanted to share. So I have a friend of mine that I learn sometimes Shabbos and Shul. We do Chazar on the Daf. He learns by himself. I saw him yesterday with the MDY mini Gemara Artscroll. I asked him, "What's this, Nissen?" He said, "Actually, I didn't have permission to say his name, so an MDY spirit of Nissen Ringel Belzer Chassid."
Time out. I just noticed something. Time out. I just noticed that behind him there's a screen with the shear playing. I didn't realize that. Interesting. Oh, sorry. I got all excited. I didn't see this before.
I asked him, "What's this, Nissen?" He said, "Actually, I didn't have permission to say his name, so an MDY spirit of Nissen Ringel Belzer Chassid." I saw him learning Gemara and asked him. He said, "Yeah, I joined this week." I asked him, "Wow, who introduced you?" I said, "Well, I saw it on your status, and that's where status comes into place. So, mazel tov, happy birthday!"
Status.
And I wanted to wish you and all the MDY Chassidim a very hearty mazel tov. We should be able to continue.
Did he mean Chassidim or Chassidim of
MDY? Can I ask you a quiz?
Sure.
All right. What is the future character? Unique. What's the uniqueness about a future character to be designed by
Right behind him, there's a screen of the shear playing over and over on a loop. Look at that.
Go ahead. Suggest you don't know. Okay.
Tell me the answer.
Something about a tzitzis with a zipper. Okay.
Oh yeah, right. That one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Scott. Okay. Gary.
All right. Rabbi Isai status. You see, he put it on a status. He got another chassid. Beautiful. Please see attached picture with fellow MDYs Avikam Yansky and Eliezer Gross at the Skokie Yeshiva Centennial Celebration in Teaneck, New Jersey. I sung your praises to the Rav of your former Kehila in Lincolnwood, Rav Chaim Twersky. I also tried to recruit several people there, including Avi's law partner, Schneier Nathan. No, Schneier Nathan, you better do it. Lili Nishmas' mother. My only regret was that we didn't call Peretz Chaim Levine to set up an MDY stand at the event. I didn't even realize when I was doing it. First, there was a picture, there's a sign in a store that Peretz Chaim Levine put in. Then the Chassid, Peretz Chaim Levine. And here again, Peretz Chaim Levine. Unbelievable. For showing up. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you in person, Bezrat Hashem, next month at MDY when I stay at your neighbor, Shamshi Shlafrak, Meir Kovacs, since Beitza Yishkoyach Reb Meir. We'll recognize you from the picture, I guess. Hey Rebbe, I don't have words. Thank you for transforming my life. Signed off like this. Moshe Greenhut, a chassid from Muncie. I used to learn a few hours a day, but as life became hectic and narrowed down to an hour, then a few minutes, and even less. But since my father and a few of my brothers listen to Yeshir, I joined the ride as well. Now it's my wife's best 45 minutes of her day when I'm busy with the shir. Same is with my day. Anyhow, Koinem goes into the thing, and to spread the rhetoric even more, we just learned that a communal facility belongs to all members. There's a famous joke on this matter. Someone came into Litzvah Shul, he wanted a cup of coffee, so he asked someone if he can get one. At the coffee dealer, "I can't grant you permission," says the guy. "Since it's mom and tzibur, you'll have to gather the whole tzibur, and it should be a chalois of the tzibur, and then you can ask everyone at once." He went over to Chassidus Shul, he asked someone if he can get a cup of coffee. "Sure, I don't care, it's mom and tzibur anyway," the chassid answered. "Have a wonderful day, your Talmud, Moshe Greenhut, a chassid from Muncie." Shkoyach. Fivey Askel, Roish HaKuhul of McKilnitz, Staten Island. Rabbi Mechi Oberlander. You know him? Nachman knows you.
I don't know, man.
Maybe he's in Miami Boys Choir. I doubt it. Dear Reb Eli, the world's connection to Torah. I'm not sure if you remember me. I was about Tefillah Kesher Nafshi. Attached picture. Here he is. About Tefillah Kesher Nafshi. I didn't show. You didn't show. Here. Okay, that's better. After coming to your shiur and Kesher Nafshi, and suddenly you handed out business cards. That's what I was doing. Business cards. I asked people to recruit anyone they see, and I took a card from you And in my mind I had that it's an awesome titler belaz, a pointer. Yeah, that's how you say pointer? Titler, right? Titler. A tatler? He said yeah, but titler, Titler, belaz. I never heard that word.
Tatler means
Tatler. Really?
Tatlin means the
Tatlin, okay. Like a tata. Kikiran chimisht. Shagatz. Okay, to be able to follow you into my Gemara, to make a long story short, I've been using it, and I came back to Israel a week later for the stolen Rebbe's son's wedding, and on the plane, I started doing the daf and catching up. Near me sat a person with his sister. After finishing my 5th daf, you hear this? He learned at least 5 daf. I got up to take a little break. Deserves it. When I came back, the guy asked me who I was, what were you watching, what are you doing? I explained to him the amount of people you have connected to Torah. He right away responded, OMG. I was at a big rabbi and he was telling me to continue my growth in Judaism. I should start doing the daf. I figured when I get back, I'll think about it. I had no idea what it's all about. I want to hear all about it. I told him I'll give you a gift that I personally got from Reb Eli himself. And it means a lot to me. I've been using it as my pointer every day. But on this pointer, he has everything that it takes to sign up and watch every day the daf. With a smile, I had it in the card. And he told me, no, you can't take it. He saw me using it. I said, no, that's exactly what the card is for. It'd be my pleasure to give it to him as long as he signs up and learns daily. I told him about the Gemara and it was sent to him. He signs up. He's very excited. I was great spending shas with you. It looked more and more. You told me in person you have targeted all the ADD and all the ADHD, dysfunctional learners, and you figured out a way how to get them to learn Kol HaKavod, Chazak V'Ematz, Shmuli Hecht. Shkoyach. This month's koilel, the koilel is sponsored that may we always be able to support Torah and may the Torah protect us from any harm. The Masechta is sponsored. Ein Sgula Torah vein Tומכיה כיעקב ויעל. The Paras HaChodesh Nishmas זכריה b'Moshe Nishmas בּצלאל b'Moshe by Pinny Taub, Staten Island, 81, Hatzlocha. For Unite to Heal campaign for Amudim and Chizuk to all victims of abuse. By the way, we got sad news that Aaron Kessler's wife, we had a lot of sponsors for her. What was it? The Masechta and the month, many months. His wife Miriam was nifteres from the same machla that my mother had. Lo Yaleinu. It's a terrible. The pancreatic is nervoid. Aaron Kessler should have an achama. Bezer Shalom, I'll give him a call. The MDY Toronto Chabura sponsors today in honor of Reb Eli's 50th birthday. It doesn't end. Pasha doesn't end. What do they have for me?
I know I want to give you something special and meaningful for your birthday.
Jonathan.
So here you go, my friend.
Yom Huledet, Rabbi Stefansky.
Oh,
Happy birthday, buddy.
pizza time.
Thank you for always shouting out pizza time. But I know you love it.
That's a good gift. But not as good as getting another guy to this year. Maybe you could get the guy from Pizza Time to join. That would be unbelievable. Okay. I don't think so. MDY Toronto Chabura in honor of Reb Eli's 50th birthday, wishing you continue Hatzlocha. Thank you for all that you do. Then the Parnas HaChodesh of the art, Yoshi, is sponsored by Anonymous from Lake with his chus for his nieces Shiduchim. Rabbi Isai, we are going to print on Masechtas Nazir. We still don't have a good sponsor from Masechtas Nazir. So if you're interested, the Arshville Gemaras that bring people to Torah, be in touch. We're holding on Daf Yomi Amud Aleph, in the middle of the Mishnah. We were discussing there's 2 types of properties. There's a property that's Eli Bavel. Eli Bavel means it's sort of like Hefker. It's not owned by anybody in particular. It's more of a communal property. It's like Hefker. You come, benefit from it. Nobody can tell you not to use it, yes to use it. Then you have something like a Beis HaMerchatz, Beis HaBad, a shul. Locally, it was bought with people's money, so everybody has a piece in it. And we're holding 5 lines from the top of Mumches. I'm going to tell you what the Gemara says right away. It seems like, if you look at the words right before, it says Veha Merchatz, Ubeis HaKnesses, and then it says Veha Koisev Chelko Lanasi. It seems like it's a continuation, but it's not. It's a trick. If a person is Mudar Hanov from his friend, and his friend is Mudar Hanov from him, they both can't benefit from each other, but they want to go daven in shul. What do? Oh, I forgot to tell you. Here, let me just tell you the questions of today. When is it possible, Rabbi Isai? Think about this. It's a riddle. When is it possible to write down a piece of property on a document? You just write it down. I want to give it to XYZ. By just writing it down in my house, it transfers over to that other person without giving it to him, without aidim, without anything. Just writing it down. Maybe aidim, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. Just write it. How can you transfer something to somebody else? Just by writing it down. Huh? Anybody? You know? You learned the sugya? Anybody learn the sugya? Shkivmara.
Get.
No, you don't have to
Get. Shkivmara, you say. It's Amirasai. But I'm saying writing it down, you write it down. Okay, I hear. Now, if somebody is mudar enough from his own father, we had the story of Zechariah. You want your father to be able to come to the chasana. You feel terrible of what you did. It was an old fight. Your mother-in-law. What do? You want him to come to the chasana. What is the eitzah? And when we have kinyan sudar, we know what kinyan sudar is. By a chasana, the chasan lifts up a handkerchief. What if the chasan wants to keep that sudar? He decides he doesn't want to give it back. Does it ruin the kinyan? We'll see different things. Says the Mishnah. This reminded me about this question because here's the answer to the question. If you just write over your share in the shul, you have a certain share, you own 1,000th of the shul, because there's 1,000, what's the word? Members, thank you. 1,000 members. You're one of the 1,000 members. So you give over to the Nasi. Nasi, the head of Klal Yisrael. You just write it to him. It doesn't matter whether you write it to the Nasi or you even write it to an individual. All you need to do is write it over. And if you write over your share to the Nasi, now it's no longer your share. You're not a member anymore. Now the Nasi took over your chelek, and the person that's mudar from you is allowed to come into shul. Now he should do the same thing to you. You have a big fight. You both want to go. So the guy in arbitration, they say, listen, what you do is both of you give it to the Nasi, and then both of you can come to shul. Mabein koisev lanasi lekoisev lehedyot. So where's the nafkamina if you write to review the Nasi or you write to individual? Shakoisev lanasi ein tzarich lezakos. If you write it, says the Mishnah, not like I said before, if you write it to the Nasi, you don't have to do any kinyan, nothing. But if you lehedyot tzarich lezakos, you still have to make some sort of kinyan. The Ram points out here that we were talking the other day, yesterday, that according to Reb Eli ben Yaakov, when you have a shul that's not divisible, you can't be mechalek a shul, you can't break it up into pieces. You need all 1,000 people, all the members. Says Reb Eli ben Yaakov, yesh breira. You could go into the shul whenever you want, and you claim the time that I'm going to shul, that's my share that I'm using. Nothing to do with you. I'm not using your chelik in the shul. I'm not benefiting from you. And what did we passing yesterday? Like Reb Eli ben Yaakov. So then why is the Mishnah over here saying that this doesn't work? The halacha, this Mishnah is not going like Reb Eli ben Yaakov. It's not going according to halacha, says the Ran. However, the Ran says we have a very big problem. Because the Rambam, who paskins like Reb Eli ben Yaakov, like the Gemara over here, he says before in this sugya, and he also paskins like this Mishnah. So it's a contradiction l'chayra, and the Rambam knows that it's a contradiction. So different Rishonim say different answers. I just loved the lashon of the Ran that he says all the way at the end that it's like smack in the middle of the page. He says, "Heichim izakish shtara lebeitrei." How could I give over a shtar that says I owe you $100 to two separate people? That's what he's doing. He's splitting hairs here. He's saying that the halacha is like Reb Eli ben Yaakov, and at the same time, he's saying that halacha is like our Mishnah, that you have to give away your share in the shul. You have to give it over to the Nasi. You can't just walk into the shul and say yesh breira like we pass like Reb Eli ben Yaakov. How does he do that? Okay, tzorchiyun on the Rambam. We have to. There's different answers. Different Rishonim say different things. Chacham say no. It's not good enough to just write down to the Nasi that you want to give him your share in the shul. When it comes to Nasi, we use the Nasi as a good mashal. Who's the Nasi? A Nasi is a person who's not going to get you back. If you give him your share, you know you can be relaxed that he's not going to turn around and say, oh, by the way, your mother had off from me. He's not going to do that. The one person that you can rely on is the Nasi. Your other friends in shul, you never know. They might get upset at you and they might knock you out. I once read, many years ago, I was like 15, 16 years old. I read it a few times, Zechariah, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Geschmack a book. And he says there that a manager said, there are many people in the factory that understand the machines a lot better than I do. But I understand the people better than they do. And therefore, he's the manager, they're not the manager. The Nasi, he understands the people, he understands how it works. He doesn't just get upset and, it doesn't work like that. Fine. But Maimer Amuzgar, I always had the shaila then, wasn't enough community between that book and a Musar book. It was basically the same ideas, the same. He talks about doing cheshbon nefesh, huh? Right. He says do cheshbon nefesh. He says be nice to others. All the stuff. And then I realized that, the saying very similar things, but he was talking in more of a selfish thing, selfish way. How could I gain from this? How could I, if I'm nice to so-and-so, he'll be nice back to me, and I can manipulate him, and I can do this, The Torah says you should be nice to the other for the sake of being nice to other people, not for your sake. Okay. And the Ran says, what? I just want to say, the Ran says here, there's a very big chiddush according to Chachamim. According to Reb Eli, but according to Chachamim, the chiddush would be that you're permitted to give your share in the shul to the Nasi, even though you continue davening in that shul. It looks like a joke. It looks like harama. It looks like trickery. I'm giving my share over just to enable me to daven in the shul. Nevertheless, you're allowed to daven in the shul. It's not considered harama. It's not considered trickery. Huh?
It's cheaper money anyway.
I only said the joke because the chassid wrote it, but it's not for us to repeat. There's certain words that only certain ethnicities could say, and we're not allowed to say it. They're allowed to say the joke, we're not. We're make me you. Yeah. Shalom Aleichem. I see Alan Gross is there also. Shalom Aleichem. Ask him if he actually comes in every week for Shabbos, or he was joking around. Yeah? No? Okay, something. What did you say? I don't know what you said. No, okay. It just seems like it. Zok the Mishnah. We continue in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Ein Anshe Galil Tzrichim Lichtoiv. You know what? It's already all over. It's done. Every shul, it's similar. I don't want to say the same thing, but talking about Hasidim, similar like to a Rebbe, I would imagine. The Rebbe owns the shul. The Rebbe owns, there was a story, one of the biggest Hasidus, one of the biggest Hasidus, the Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael demanded that they turn over the shul in America and they write it on his name. There's a big fight, and no, you're Hasidus. You don't know? Okay, fine. But you understand the idea. The idea is that you give it over to the head, so there shouldn't be any machlokes in later on. There shouldn't be any shilas and who's on the amuta and who's on the board and not on the board and who donated the money. It's very, very complicated halachas and sugyas in today's shuls because the donors want the shul. If the shul breaks up, who gets it, etc. So just give it to the. So that's what Anshe Galil did. Exactly that. Ein Anshe Galil tzrichim lichtoiv. If you live in the Galil in Galil, you don't have to write anything over. Shekvar kosvav yisayim al yedayim. Their forefathers already anticipated the problems. And they said, everything is owned by the Nasi, Shalma Yisrael. Nobody owns anything in the shul. Says the Gemara, we started at a very good place because the Gemara's question is on where we started. I already explained what the answer is. But if you read it, it says, the Merchatz, the Beis HaKnesses, and somebody that writes over his share in the shul to the Nasi, all these are considered something that you mudar hanar from, as the Gemara, my mitzar. But if you write it over to the Nasi, why is that bad? It's good. What it meant to say is umata kanta, umata kanasan. In other words, it doesn't. The reading again, Nedarim is a hard lashon. It flows in one way, but it means something completely different. It means if you're in a fight with your friend, how can you daven in the shul? Now you could really skip the next 6 lines. It's really just repeating word for word. I'll just read it really quickly, and you guys could just meet me at Reb Yehuda Omer. Reb Yehuda Omer, ein anshi gol tzrichim lezakos shekakvasu kosva avisei ma'yedeyim. They already gave over all their belongings to the Nasi in the shul. Tanya Reb Yehuda Omer, anshe golil kantronim hoyu. Kantronim, I have a picture. This is a kantron. A guy that's always red in the face, always upset. It's easy to get him upset. As I state in the dictionary, it's like it's a word in English also. And no, something like that. And
Contrary.
what?
No,
Cantankerous.
Cantankerous. How do you? Oh, because you're looking over it in the art scrollish. Cantankerous. It's a famous word.
Famous word.
Yeah. He's not cantankerous. Look at this picture. That looks like Reb Nachum. Look what I'm causing. Because of me. No, that's my fault that he said that. It became the norm. Check other people like that. Okay. You say something to the guy, immediately he puts you in a cherem, he puts you in a neder. You know what happened? There's no minion in shul anymore. Everybody is mudar enough from the other guy. So their forefathers said, you know what, we got to do something about it real quickly. Let's just give the entire shul to the Nasi. And like this, our sons that have our terrible midas, I'm not upset, they just make me upset, those kind of midas. Everybody can go to shul now. Says the Eli Mishnah, the official Mishnah sponsored, that we should all have this chut to never give up, stay positive, and keep going forward. Again, this is something that we learned literally in a Mishnah. I forgot to ask the Belzer. I really want to ask the Belzer. Where else in Shas do you have 2 Mishnayos so close to each other that are repetitive? By the way, that just reminded me that I got a few emails that Nazir Daf Mem Gimel or whatever is the shortest Daf in Shas. Great. But if you look at what I said a Daf that has Amud Aleph and Amud Beis. That was the shortest Daf that we had 2 days ago. Nazir only has Amud Aleph. And in Baba Kama also there's another Daf that only has Amud Aleph. Might be shorter. Fine. Akapanim. This is literally word for word for what we just learned in Daf Mem Gimel less than 5 days ago. You're in a fight with your friend and he doesn't have what to eat. I have a picture. Here you have a ani and you have a osher. So what you do is the osher wants to feed the ani, but the problem is the osher cannot give anything to the ani. They're in a fight. He was mudar enough from him. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the guy keeps on knocking on his door at 1 o'clock in the morning and he says, you know what? Don't ever come back here. I'm mudar enough from you. You're mudar enough from me. Get out of here. Don't ever come back. But now, I don't know what it is. What? Who?
Boris.
We're American. We don't know these things. Talk in English. We're talking about Trump. We're Trump, Biden. We don't know Boris. I don't know what Boris looks like. Even if you show me a picture. No, it's a frum guy. He has tchelas tucked in his pants. I shouldn't say pants. What's the word? Trousers.
No, we're not buying into that. Pants. Continue.
I had a tie on Yoshi this morning. It was too late already. You should have done some tchelas for the guy. He has a yarmulke. Look, he has a little tiny. If you look closely, he has a yarmulke. Let's see if I can zoom in on there. Oops, I probably wrong. Here, you see, he has a yarmulke. Could you see? Yeah. Okay. So all he does, this Osher, he gives the money to Yosef Klein, and Yosef Klein gives it to the guy. That's Beseder. You know when we had this halacha also, you have 3 people walking in the desert, one of them doesn't have food. You give it to the second guy gives it to the third guy, called Beseder. That's great. But we want to say a bigger chiddush here. You give it to a third party, and then the third party gives it to the second guy to the ani, and he could eat. Now, the famous story, we had the story, I said the story a few times during the Masechta, maybe a couple of times. A person was in a big fight with his own father. Happens. Unfortunately, happens. And he was marrying off a grandchild. He felt really bad. Yeah, I remember during COVID, you all remember, you go to chasana, one of the saddest things is that the father couldn't come to the chasana. He's a little bit older, in his 60s, 70s, and he couldn't go. The mass, the whole thing is too dangerous to them. Remember those chasanas? It's unbelievable. And then somebody would get up at the chuppah a number of times. I'm here instead of my father. I'm making a bracha instead of him. The whole thing. You remember? Am I the only one at one of these chasanas? I was like that. Here he is. The father can't come to the chasana for his own fault. He put his father in a chayrim, in a neder. Or his father put... So what does he do? I'm giving you the entire meal. All the catering is yours, my friend. And I'm doing this, Ella, only I'm doing it so that my father could come here. It's not my food anymore. It's your food. You're the third party. And that's why I'm giving it to you. Omar Maisa Shahaya. The guy was annoyed, saying, what are you going to play trickery with Takonas Chazal? You're going to play trickery with the Torah? You made a nether. It's a nether. You don't play games here with your father, for your father. Im Shalihem, and if you're so serious that it's mine 100%, I'm taking your entire Suda, I'm making it Hegdish. You yourself can't even come to your own wedding. What? I gave it to you so you should make it Hegdish. I gave it to you so my father comes to the Chasana. You did it for a trick so that you could invite your father. And the Avera should be on my head. Roishai in third party. You didn't want to say that the Avera is on his head. Roishai, same idea. There's many stories, but the one that pops out, Reb Gedalia Nadal, the famous Talmud of Chazon Ish, who was a contractor, but a very, very big Talmud Chacham. If somebody ever did that trick, you go to the kotel and you don't want to rip your shirt, halachically you have to rip your shirt if you weren't there 30 days. He said, here's a thing, a shekel, now my shirt becomes yours. Okay. And the guy goes, Kriya. Now Gedalia says, okay, you just ripped my shirt. Pay up. You make the guy pay for it. To show him, you can't trick around. There's no tricks. Oh, you're going to do a thing and it's not your shirt. It is your shirt. By chametz, you're allowed to do it. Certain places you're allowed to do it, but you can't just do tricks. So the guy says, if you're going to do, huh?
Not a trick by chametz, but yeah, buys the shirt. The point is in buying the shirt is that he puts that shirt.
No. Oh. I don't know. Whatever the story is. Fine. Different story. Next story. Yeah. It's not my, I don't know what the story is. Okay, fine. You're right. Not a good story. We have to figure it out. We're missing one little nakuda. Yeah, I think so. He made wine. I think he was. Shalom Aleichem. First, there's a guest that just walked in. We'll say Shalom Aleichem to him, then we'll say the Shalom to the rest. Shalom, what's your name? From Shmuel Khan, from Baltimore. Who are you with? Shalom Aleichem. Come on in. We have a tzaddik over here. Just moved to Ramat Bet Shemesh. What's your name? Liftig? Liftig. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Ramat Bet Shemesh. Who else? What's your name, tzaddik? All the way then. Ushi? Cohen. I know a guy like that from Avremi. Yeah, that's exactly what he says every day. He's one of the big guys there. Or up there in the booth. Okay. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome. You're also good in computers and that kind of stuff? Not as good as Avremi. Okay. Welcome to all the other guests. I don't know who you are, where you are, but okay. Shalom Aleichem. Next. So we're back to the Mishnah. Amazing. Because you don't have the right to be Magdish, the guy said straight out, I'm only giving you my whole chasana meal so that my father can come to the wedding. Not so that you should make it hegdish. So since if you don't have the right, if somebody doesn't have a right for a minute to make something hegdish, then it's not a good matana. Now we all know on Sukkos, you don't have an esrig, you take somebody's esrig. I said this 20 times. The shul right next door, the Prushim, they have literally 60 esrogim, all types, all shapes. They work on it. The whole shul works on it for days upon days. They go to every paradise, they check and they buy and they Moroccan. And then you go, you say, Amatana manas lahachzer. The guy gives you all the boxes and you go like this. So how does it work? What if during the Matana manas lahachzer I decide I want to make it hegdish? You can't do that. I can't take all of this esrog and make it hegdish. So if I can't make it hegdish, then it's not a real matana. And if it's not a real matana, then I didn't shake a esrog. The answer is that you could make it hegdish, a temporary hegdish, theoretically. In other words, it is your gift 100% for that 5 minutes that you're shaking. You just can't do a permanent hegdish, but you can do a little bit of hegdish, whatever that means. Whereas over here, I didn't give it to you at all, not even for a millisecond. It's never yours, not even for a millisecond. I gave it to you for one reason only. That my father should be able to come to my own wedding because we're in a fight. So then that doesn't work. That's what the Ran says. Says the Gemara. Maisa Listar. We start off the Mishnah saying that there's a way here. If you're a guest, I'll show you the. You didn't see this. This was drawn just for today. Literally, brand new art. The wealthy guy and the poor guy were today. That's Yosef Klein. Oh. So the poor guy cannot benefit from the rich guy because they have a nether between the two of them. So the way to do it is to give everything you have to Yossi Klein, and Yossi Klein gives it to the poor guy, and everything is great. And then the Mishnah says, well, you know what? There's a story just like that, because instead of a poor guy and a rich guy, it's a father and a son. And what the guy did is he said, I'm giving the entire wedding to Yossi Klein, to the guy with the shtreimel. And that doesn't work. So it's a stira. It's like you're bringing me a story to contradict what you said to start off with. Says the Gemara, what the Mishnah meant to say is as follows. That if the whole reason that he gave it, well, this is also a chiyach, but we'll explain. Over here, over here he says mefurish in his words. He said, what are his words? Ella shi'avayabo, whatever the words are. Let me see. Ella kedei shi'avay abba v'yochal imanu b'suda. He says those words. I'm giving it to you on one condition, so my father could come. That's no good. If he doesn't say anything, if the guy would have, and here's the answer to one of the questions in the beginning of the shir. How do you make your father come to the chasana when you have a neder on him? What you do is you give the entire wedding to your friend, but you keep your mouth closed. You say, I'm giving you, Mendy, my entire wedding here. Okay, that's it. I gave it to him. And now my father can come to the wedding. But if I tell him, I say, Mendy, the reason why I'm giving you my whole wedding, all 400 meals, times how much does it cost today? I don't know, 200 shekel a portion, $100 minimum. I'm only doing it because I want my father to come. That's no good. You can't say befurish anything. Because and on that the mission says, where the end shows the intention in the beginning. So it's a little confusing, this Gemara. If you don't have this chart, if you have this chart, it's very, very pashut. There's two Lashonas, says the Gemara. There's two languages here, and two things that Rava might have said. But they're both all the same. In other words, like this. The difference between two things is a period. You see there's a period on the bottom one? A period. There's a way to say, in Gemara language, I'm giving you this wedding and the story. Period. By the way, I would like my father to come. I'm asking you nicely, let my father come. The top one, the red, which is no good, he says, Elo shi'ovi abba. I'm stipulating, I'm giving it to you only on one condition, that my father can come. If my father can't come, it's not yours. The second one is, it's more subtle. It's yours 100% Mendy. You can take it. I want you to have it. But I'm asking you, do me a taiva, by the way, we're in a big fight. I'd like my father to come. Rava says that's okay. And then Rava says, according to another shita, that's not okay. Okay? That's it. That's the whole thing here. Just when I read it in the beginning, I didn't have all the words. So it was a little bit, I added what he really said. I'm giving you everything. Only on condition. That's no good. But if he says, take it, and it doesn't say the word Ella, and then he says, it could be in one breath. It's as if he put a period there. We have it in many other sugyas where a guy says, here, 400 zuz, on condition that you marry so-and-so, you take the 400 zuz and you go bye-bye. And you don't have to marry, because it's like a stop in the lashon. Okay, so over here, let's see it inside. On condition, stipulate. But if he says the second lashon, it's all yours, but I'm asking you nicely, then it's okay. But the other lashon says, Rava said, don't say that this is different between the top and the bottom. Even the green is also awesome. Even if he says, I'm asking you nicely, please let my father come to eat, also it's still also. My time. Again, since it's so obvious that nobody in their right mind gives away an entire wedding to somebody else, and then besides, there's other svaras, you want your father to eat from your suda, not the other guy's suda. What about if I gave it, I didn't say a word? Then it works. What if I didn't say a word? And then 5 minutes later I said, by the way, the whole reason I did it is so that you could, hint, invite my father. So the Ran says, it's too late. You can't undo what you did. You did it in the right way. It's a good kinyan, your father come. The Rambam argues. The Rambam says, once you open your mouth, doesn't matter when. 3 days later, you open your mouth, you explain why you did it, you ruin everything. We just turned to Daf Yomi Amud Beis, sponsored by Yankel Cohen, the official MDY MSP, and the schus being able to support, leaving a hatorah and the finish shas with the Reb Eli.
Why can't he invite the father?
Huh?
He gave away the meal. Just let him invite the father. It's not his meal.
You can invite somebody to somebody else's wedding. It's not you. The guy himself should invite his father. He's not allowed to benefit from him. You're not allowed to bet if somebody is muda. No, you can't even walk into his front yard. Certainly, you can't eat his food. Oh, Gavra. Check this out. Stam. There's a guy, a son. True story. A guy found out his son is a ganav. What does he do? He steals flax from people. That's what he does. He said, you know what? You're out of my will. He took him out. What if your son does tshuva? Your grandson does tshuva and he becomes a big Talmid Chacham? You don't want him to benefit from your millions that you have? You're going to give all your money to the other child? Famous Maisa, this Chiloni lady in Tel Aviv was complaining to her neighbor. She said, it's crazy. Not only are my 2 sons Bali Tshuva, but now my 3rd one is starting to get into it. So the lady looks at her and says, did you check your mezuzahs? So this kid is, we actually learned that you're not allowed to, it's usher when we're learning the Hilchas Yerusha, it's usher if you have a son that's a little bit off, you don't take him out of the will. Why? Because you never know what the future generations hold. So now you just hurt your future generations, and that's what we're telling this guy here. Okay, so he's a shtickle robber. He has a little bit of he's a klepto a little bit. No. But you're gonna take away Yerusha from your grandson? Maybe he's a big Talmid Chacham. So the guy hears, he says, oh, you're right. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give 50% of my millions. I have 20 million Yerusha, 10 million goes to the son, the bad guy, the robber, but only on condition that he gives it to his son if he becomes a Talmid Chacham. And if he doesn't become a Talmid Chacham, it goes back to my other son. In other words, the robber gets 0. He has no way to use this money. He's just holding on to it for the future generation. If that actually happens, like you're saying, okay, I want my grandson to benefit. What's the halach in such a case? This is an amazing halacha. I'm telling you, you acquire this object, but only for one purpose only. Not for you to benefit from that object, but to move it on to somebody else. That's not considered acquiring. That's not a kinyan. This son, the robber, for him to hold on to $10 million, but he can't do anything. He can't buy a nice Lamborghini. Only one thing. He could hold on to it and pass it on to the next generation. That's not a good kinyan. Nachman Omar, Kani, it does work. The way his sudra works, you have a moicher and a kaina, right? So here we have MDY Sudar, the official. Here, I have actually a picture. This is, you see that thing, it says Kinyan Sudar. Here's a chassan with the white yarmulke. He is like the moicher. The moicher, the guy selling, he has to lift up this Sudar thing. And just by him lifting it up, he transfers whatever he has to the other party. It's like chalipin a little bit. It doesn't really have to be the buyer's sudar. It could be anybody's. By a wedding, the Rav takes out his own yarmulke, handkerchief, whatever, and the chassan goes like this. How does it work? By you going like this, you're meshabed yourself. Now you're chayiv to your wife, XYZ. I could take all my belongings in a warehouse and move them over to your property without actually moving, without doing anything, just by lifting this up. So the Gemara says, Sudra look, in this picture, the chassan, is he going to keep that thing that says Kinyan Sudra? Absolutely not. That costs 100 shekel to make. It's like a tefillin bag, right? It's not cheap. He's not going to. They don't give one of those to every chassan. They give it to him. He goes like this, and a second later he gives it back. So isn't that the same thing by us? The kid acquired $1 million. He doesn't keep it. He moves it on to somebody else. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Ashi, you're wrong for two reasons. Who says that if the chassan decides to keep that talis bag thingy, he can't? Of course he could. It's just not nice. It's the norm to give it back to the caterer. And if the Rav takes off his yarmulke from under his hat and he goes like this, and you chop his yarmulke and you walk away, he can't sue you. Too bad. It's just normal to give it back to him. You made a mistake, he says. The way the sudar works, the kinyan happens this moment, this second. But what about our case? When the kid is maybe 2 years old, and if he becomes a Talmud Chacham when he's 20, then he gets the $10 million. That's in 18 years from now. What happened? In 18 years from now, where's the kinyan? There is no kinyan. The kinyan happened in 2022. Ooh, what year is it? Yeah, 22. You want to make a kinyan later on, in 2040. There's no kinyan then. The Ran goes in, there's machlokes Rishonim. What about if there's a shtar that lasts all the way to 2040? So you do have a kinyan. The Ran says no, but the guy's dead. The father died already. I need a kinyan that works where the moicher, the guy giving over the property, he's alive and the kinyan is there. Sudar works on the spot. The chassan and the kala works right then and there. This is for later on. Only you have to wait until it becomes a Talmud Chacham. But that didn't happen yet. Then it's too late. Fine. What about our story in the Mishnah? The guy wants his father to come to the wedding. He says, take my entire wedding. But why? On condition that my father could come. I'm giving it over right away. It moves immediately. By the way, Rav Nachman, the Ran just says real quickly, Rav Nachman is going to hold that it's mi'achshav. And before we were saying that, this kinyan is chal in 18 years from now, Rav Nachman is going to hold, no, it's chal right now. It starts now, mi'achshav, and it finishes in 18 years. Okay. So the Gemara answers, Zimnan Omar Le, there's two ways he used to answer this question, Rav Nachman. Zimnan Omar Le, Mishum the Sudasim Michachas Olav. You could see that there's haram over here, this trickery going on here. The only reason why he's giving over the meal to his friend is because he wants his father to come here. Masha'enkein, in the case of the son is a robber, he actually wants his grandson to be Zoicha. So he actually gives him over the $10 million for real, so that he should be able to give it to his grandson. Over here, it's not real. Over here, the only reason he's giving him the Suda so that his father could come. And sometimes you would answer, Reb Eli, this we have to explain a little bit. It's not so simple. We all know what vitur is, right? Unless you just started today. Vitur means insignificant amount of ana, like walking into my front yard. It doesn't cost me anything, But since you're mother hana, you're not allowed to do that. So the pshat over here is very simple. What do you see? When it comes to mamanis, if I walk into your front yard, do I owe you any money? Just in general. People walk into my front yard all the time and it doesn't cost them a dime. So in mamanis, when it comes in hilchas mamanis, it's 0. But when it comes to hilchas nedarim, it's a big no-no. You cannot walk into my front yard if you're mudana for me. So what do you see? Neder is stronger and more severe than mammon. Mammon, you can walk into my front yard, I can't do anything about it. But if you're mudana for me, you can't. What? So in other words, exactly, there's no viter, and so it's more severe. Because there's no viter, there's no severe. It's more severe. That's the Amar afilu viter also be mudar hana. So therefore, there's no kni al manas lahaknois when it comes to neder. I'm just trying to prove that a neder is worse than mamanis. You're right. In all of the Torah, there's a concept called kni al manas lahaknois. Take this money for you, take the $10 million, don't touch it, don't use it, move it over to the next generation. That works. It doesn't work when it comes to a neder. When I want my father to come into my wedding, it doesn't work. Why? Because neder is more severe than the mamanis. That's all the Gemara is saying here. It says it in a funny way. You need a round to tell you what it means. Tanan. Anytime you give, we learned in the Mishnah. If it's a matana that's not strong enough that you can make it hegdish, it's not a matana. Kol la'asuya mai. What does it come to include? Lav la'asuya ha'muzi l'shadi b'kipei. Doesn't come to say that it's usher to give $10 million to your son, so you should give it to your grandchild. Loi la'asuya lishnev asra d'shmaitz the Rava. Let's just look real quickly. Remember, there was a way to say there was a havamin or one lashon in Rava that if I say it nicely, here's my whole meal. By the way, please let my father come to the wedding. So Rava, in the beginning, we thought said, one lashon says, he could come to the wedding. The second lashon says, he cannot come to the wedding. So it means all matanis, even like this, you cannot come to the wedding. Reb Eli, have a wonderful day.